and welcome to my second February pickups video. So this is everything I got in the second half of February. As you can see, I've actually got lights on compared to my normal setup where I just use natural light because it is nighttime. I don't generally film at night, but now that uni and stuff is on again, I don't have as much time as I do during the day, so you're just gonna have to put up with nighttime filming today, but I think the lighting's pretty good, so it shouldn't affect you that much, hopefully. Not the largest haul I've ever had this month, obviously, and it is just half of the stuff I got from this month, but in saying that, the last video was not long at all. There wasn't that much in it. So, overall, a good amount of stuff, but nothing to truly, write home or about. It's not breaking any records here. But first off, I'm going to start with my figure. He's a prize figure. I pre-ordered him last year, obviously. He was in, shipping for a long time. I don't know where they sent him before it got to me, but he was kind of taking his sweet time to get here, and I'm talking about the Master Stars piece, I think, Kageyama Tobio, so other main character of Highkey. He is very tall. You can see he's standing up, and he's not even on screen, really, his face. If you compare to Hinata, though, they do actually have their height difference. It's quite apparent. They're not just mold of the same body or anything. There is a reasonable size difference there, but I do really love these because they're cheap and they're well sculpted and their paint jobs are good. They have great expressions, faces, and yeah, you can't complain for the quality you get for the amount of money you spend. Even their shoes have the little designs on it, and this is, part of the molding. It's not just stickers or anything on there. Press figures have really come a long way, so if you are kind of interested in getting some of your own PVC goodness, but don't have a huge budget, then I would definitely recommend trying prize figures because they're cheap and you can get them pretty much anywhere, on online stores without, spending a crazy amount of money. And yeah, so those are my two Highkey scale-ish sort of figures. And yeah, I'm really happy with them. Next, what am I gonna do? Next is a light novel. Which I actually got from Gumtree, which is kind of like a Australian version of Craigslist. You post ads and, sell things. I haven't really used Gumtree a lot before, but I should definitely because there's a lot of good deals on there. So, yes, I got this for $4. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but $4 is a fantastic deal. To me, that's amazing. And I had to drive to pick it up, but it was only a 20-minute drive. And for me, who drives all day to get to the city, it's a 45, 50 to an hour, 45 minutes to an hour and some drive just to get to the CBD. Then a 20-minute drive, not that out of the way. So anyway, not interesting to you guys, I'm sorry. But first off, the light novel I got it's an older light novel as well. It's not a new Yen Press kind of release. And that is Volume 1 of Fullmetal Alchemist, which is The Land of Sand. Yeah, it's actually written by Makoto Inoue, based off of Hiromu Arakawa's concepts, obviously the universe of Fullmetal Alchemist. This was released by Viz Fiction, which was their light novel publication at the time, by Viz Media, in 2005. So this is an old book. The translation is good. It's fine. It works as a translation. You can tell that this was very much marketed for young fans of Fullmetal Alchemist, or younger people. This was just when Fullmetal Alchemist was getting very popular in the United States. So people, like kids from probably lower or higher grades of primary school to like early high school, so middle school, probably 10 to 14 would definitely be able to read this. I mean, anyone can read it. There's no law against it, but it is very simple language, and anyone can read it without getting confused or anything. This is the first of 5 that were released in English. There are 7 altogether, but we never got those last 2, mostly because just the whole anime collapse thing going on in America, and light novels just weren't popular back then. Now we've kind of gotten back to the point where people want to read light novels, but it wasn't really like that back 10 or so years ago. But anyway, this volume was pretty good. If you're a fan of the first Fullmetal Alchemist anime series, then you will definitely know this story. It's the origins. It's where they got the ideas for the false Elric brothers, so Russell and Fletcher, from the early episodes of Fullmetal Alchemist. So it works within the canon of the story without actually impacting anything that is going on in the manga. This was set, before manga events, really, like in those in-between years when Ed was working as a state alchemist, or joined the government, to when stuff was actually going on with the Philosopher's Stone and human transmutation and stuff, when the plot was actually happening later or kind of early on in the manga. So there's a gap of about 3 years between the ages of 12 to 15 that these light novels kind of fill in gaps. It's just like little extra traveling stories. So yes, majority of this book is that false Elric brothers story. It does also have another short story, which is Warehouse 13, which was also adapted to the first series as episode like 35, 37, something like that. A bit of a comedy one featuring the Eastern Command, so Roy Mustang and his unit at the time. Yeah, it's a little bit of fun, and I'm actually hoping to get the rest of these. They're not like too highly sought after, but I'm big enough of a fan to kind of enjoy the simple pleasures of reading some alchemist adventures. So yes. Next is, I'm just going to go quickly mentioning it. I got one BL title, which is Does the Flower Blossom Volume 2 by Shoko Hiraka, published by June. If you liked the first volume, you will like this volume. As you can see, it's only 16 plus, so it's nothing explicit at all, at all. But yeah, it's only 5 volumes long, this series, but I'm sure it's probably going to take us about 5 years to get all those volumes, going at the rate that June does. But yeah, it's a good little read. It's something kind of nice to have, something refreshing within the sea of various BL titles that seem to be coming out. Okay. Next is a continuing series that I absolutely adore, and that is volume 11 of Noragami by Arashi Toka. So this is actually the first volume where they haven't adapted anything or there's nothing in the anime that's in this book, so it hasn't adapted this far, but this is a phenomenal bunch of chapters. I loved it so much. There's a lot of backstory with Kofuku and Daikoku, the poverty god and her kind of trusty companion, as well as like some other characters who like you wouldn't really expect. There's a lot of interesting backstory, and I love like the way they've developed this world. I adored this volume. It was so good. It's so emotionally heartbreaking and just gut-wrenching. It's fantastic. If you're not reading Noragami, you definitely need to be, especially if you enjoyed the anime, because the anime is fantastic. I love it. That's how I got into the series, but the manga has kind of slightly a different feel to it. They've adapted pretty well. It's not 100% one-to-one. They were a little bit liberal with some of the stuff, especially the endings to both, but more so to make the series work as a proper series, rather than just having a cliffhanger leading on to nothing. Although the season 2 did have that, but it's more like, oh my god, I gotta read the next manga volume, and luckily we do actually have the manga volume. And because of how popular Noragami actually is in Japan, hopefully Bones will kind of make more seasons. I mean, it was phenomenal that we got a second season to begin with Bones, because that's not really something that happens at all ever. But yes, Noragami, definitely read the manga. If you're a fan, you will love this volume. If you haven't tried it, you will love the manga. So please try it. It's not the best thing. Like, I can't say it's the best manga of all time, because of course not, but it is definitely worth it. I have heard people liken it to Inuyasha and stuff, but I don't really aside from there being a god character, or like a Shinto background character, and then like a normal girl, and then they're thrust together in like unlikely circumstances. It's really nothing at all. I wouldn't really compare the two at all. And the people who have said that Noragami is the better executed of the two. But it's very different. I wouldn't actually make that comparison at all. But anyway, Noragami, definitely try it. It's one of the better series coming out at the moment. And that's saying a lot, because there's some great stuff coming out from all the publishers. But I'm so glad that this is doing so well for Kodansha. And I can't wait for the next 5 or 6 volumes that are available, ready for pre-order. How do I know this? Because I have already pre-ordered them. Because I'm literally that keen. I have to get the volume as soon as it comes out, because it's just it leaves me on the edge of my seat every time, and I have to read the next volume. It's so good. It's so good. So many cliffhangers, and it's leading into a new arc, which I am really excited about as well. So hopefully that'll work out to be something great. Next is another continuing volume of manga, which is Tokyo Ghoul Volume 5 by Sui Ishida. Yep, again, another very popular series. I really like this one. It's not, the greatest, but it is very enjoyable. It's got a great idea and storyline, and I think I think that Ishida has kind of executed it amazingly well in this series. There's enough kind of interesting stuff that it's not really predictable that necessarily what will happen, and you don't really quite know which way the story is going to head. I've heard the next volumes are even better, so I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully I can get them in the next couple months. I know they're not out yet, but hopefully I can get them when they come out. Next is another volume of manga. This is a complete series. It's not really a series, it's a complete story. It's omnibus edition of A Girl on the Shore by Inyo Asano. Someone asked me for my thoughts on this series. It's great, it's fantastic, but I can't really recommend it blindly to people who aren't aware of Asano's typical work style, and the type of story he tells. Don't go into this expecting to come out feeling good about yourself. Asano has a very interesting way of portraying coming of age story. It's very bleak and kind of extremely realistic in a depressive sense. That's not to say this is bad. I think it's actually one of the more genuine kind of portrayals of a dissociated teenager, especially at that like 14-15-year-old age where you're still trying to figure out like who you are and why life sucks and what's going to happen in this world. And it also is kind of, it's a bit difficult to read because it just shows stuff as it is. You have to admit to yourself that, or the characters as well as yourself have to admit that it's not really that there are things that you don't like about yourself that you don't want other people to see, or you don't want to admit to other people. Yeah, so if you are looking for that kind of story, I definitely recommend this. But go into it, like, don't just blindly pick it up and go into it not knowing anything about Asano, because a majority of his stories are like this. They're realistic coming of age and finding yourself stories, but that, like, there's not that much optimism. There's optimism, but a realistic sense of optimism. It's not very hopeful for society, if that makes sense. But yeah, I did like it, and I do like his work a lot. But yeah, you have to be aware of what you're going into when you read it. Also, most notably for this series, there's a lot of underage sex, and that's just, like, not making a judgment call on that because it is consensual and it's between, like, people the same age, but they are 14, 15, and I know not everybody wants to be reading that. Like, it is a bit weird, like, but it is realistic for a good majority of people. That's how things have worked out. But yeah, it can get quite explicit with the artwork, and there's a lot of it, like pretty much every chapter. A lot of it every chapter, and this is a thick book. It is a thick book. So yeah, just forewarning you, if you're kind of not comfortable with seeing more explicit sex in manga, especially between young people and like quite young people, then I would say it's probably not a good series for you. It's not romanticized at all, actually, so it's not like portraying it as a good thing, but I know that some people are still kind of like weirded out by that, and I don't blame you. Like, that's not, again, no judgment call, but it is something that you have to be aware of going into it. I don't think it's like really that funny for people to be like, no, it's really great, you should watch it, or read it, and then that person tries it and is like really off put by it, and then everyone's like, it's so fun, look at them, they had a bad reaction. That's not, I don't think that's very kind. But so yes, just forewarning you, if you're thinking of picking it up, but you you really don't see yourself as enjoying something with that kind of premise, with a lot of underage sex, that's pretty much the focus of the series for a lot of the story, then you might want to skip this one. just as a informative review of it, kind of. Next is another of Asano's work, which is Nietzsche Kohara Holograph, which has been released by Fantagraphic Books, who also released two of Moto Hagio's works, as well as Wandering Sun. This is great. This is a lot easier, I think, to recommend to people. It's more of a mystery, horror, thriller series, as well as kind of a coming-of-age series, in a sense. It's a little bit... It's almost fascinating to read, because there's like a couple different ways you can interpret the story. One just being there's just straight up magic and just like crazy crap going on. But there's also a sense of this is the way people have deluded themselves to be able to accept horrible things that they've done and justify that. And it's a very interesting, like, you never quite know what's real and what isn't, and whether or not, people are actually seeing these butterflies and what's going on, or whether the butterfly is symbolic of other things, who knows. But Nietzsche Kohara Holograph is, if you want to try Asano's work, this is probably an easier one for people to get into. There's not underage sex, for one, but it's kind of more of a mystery, and you have a lot more to mull over that isn't necessarily as bleak as A Girl on the Shore. Even though A Girl on the Shore isn't that bleak, but I think if you've read the two, you know what I mean. Yeah, so I really liked it, and I know some people are confusing and upset that there's no real ending to it, or it's never explained what such and such is, and like, why is there no clear defined answer? But I think that's part of the fun of it. You're able to interpret it up to whatever you feel like, and so I am hoping that that people try this one, especially give Fantagraphic Books your money. They definitely deserve it. They release some fantastic titles that other people would, or other companies would never really risk, and they're not doing too well at the moment. So if you want to try something, this one's a good one. It's all in one, and it's fantastic. The hardcover is amazing, as with all of their releases, I might add. And it's a huge size. If you compare it to a standard manga volume, it's just way bigger. So it's more expensive, but you're definitely getting your money's worth just in like publishing quality. And finally, wow, this video has gotten long. Thank goodness I made this month into 2 videos, is anime. There's 3 things here. They're all Australian releases, just by the way. So not really the ones like the versions of stuff that you would find locally in your country, necessarily. Unless you live in Australia, then hello fellow Australian anime and manga and other various people who enjoy this stuff and watch my videos. Thank you. But first off, again, this is another buy from Gumtree. It's kind of a rebuy. It was cheap for what it was. It was cheaper to buy it from this person than to get it elsewhere for like less than what it was. So the story was that I was going to buy the first single with the box because I wanted the box. If you know me, you know that sometimes I buy stuff for packaging so I can like Frankenstein stuff into more complete box sets. And if you don't know what that means, like, I've done it before with Gunslinger Girl. I have the American, like, 3 singles box release. So I bought the first single with the box, and then subsequently put the 2 seasons and the OVA collections in there. So it's the entire series just in one box, and it's just all together, and it's just so much more aesthetically pleasing to me. And I don't really sell my collection that often, especially for stuff I've done that for. So, I don't really care what other people think, that I'm ruining the integrity of the original packaging or whatever. I don't care, it's my collection, I'll do what I want. But I was going to buy this first volume and the box, and online it was like $35, which, to be honest, is not that, that's pretty typical for, old stuff. And this is quite out of print in Australia as well. I mean, I'm sure there's copies floating around, but I was happy that I found a copy. Anyway, but then I was on Gumtree and I saw someone selling their complete collection for $30. I was like, oh, well. So I canceled my order online, which leads to something else later in this video, and bought it from this very wonderful person over in the Eastern States who sent it to me. And this is the Australian box set of Hellgirl. So this is the first season. This is the box that it came with in Australia. It's very nice. I actually like it a lot more than the US release. But as you can see, it's got a whole bunch of different releases in here. So first off, we've got the original release of Hellgirl that I got from the US. Well, I got it at a store here, but it was the US import of the thin pack of Season 1. It was one of the first anime I ever bought of Hellgirl Season 1. And then this one is Volume 1 of Hellgirl, the first season. So this is the Australian release. It's actually got... So I'll just pull these out. So the US release has these little thin pack cases with 2 discs in them. Kind of just the repackaging that is typical of Funimation, especially at that point. So yeah, and then the Volume 1 of Season 1, this is the Australian release, obviously, as I mentioned. It actually has the entirety of the first season there, so I just put in a multi-case DVD, or multi-disc DVD case. So I have the first series twice, and that's actually okay, because I can lend it out to people and some such. But next is Hellgirl Volume 1 and 2, and Season 2 Volume 1 and 2, and then Season 3 Volume 1 and 2. So it's the entirety of the 3 seasons of Hellgirl in one beautiful box, and I am very pleased because I do actually really like Hellgirl. It's very episodic and kind of repetitive, but the first 2 seasons are great. The 3rd season isn't fantastic, but it's still pretty good. Like, it goes quite off the rails, but I do always love some good Hellgirl stories, and there was always something really interesting and unique about each of them in the series. So I'm very glad that I was able to finagle this thing together, even though for most people it seems crazy that I would do something like that. Continuing on from where I cancelled my online order and then got that Gumtree version, where I cancelled, it doesn't actually offer refunds if the product isn't broken or, faulty in some way. But they're like, okay, we can give you credit, like store credit. So it was like, well, what should I buy? I've got store credit on this store that, I never use. It's, the only reason I was using it was because it was the last place that actually had what I wanted. So I have, money here. What should I do? So I put it towards something that I wanted to get for a very long time. I've been lazy and been putting it off. And that is From the New World Part 2. This is, again, the Australian release. Hanabi, released in Australia. And this is a phenomenal series. I think everyone should watch it. Especially if you're kind of getting bored of a lot of typical anime series. If you're over your, Sword Art Onlines and what else is there? I don't know. I'm not good with with like currently airing stuff, because I don't follow that much. Well, that's a lie, but I don't know what's popular with the kids these days. I just know what's popular with me. But if you're looking for something a bit more mature and you have kind of more sensibilities towards something that isn't aimed towards the Naruto, One Piece, Bleach like age range in Japan. I'm not, like, you can enjoy those shows, I'm not judging you, but this is definitely an adult series, or like it's not for kids. It's very not for kids. Based off of a novel of the same name. The first half is great, second half is better, and it was one of my favorite shows of the season, if not my favorite show of that season, and probably subsequent season, like prior and post seasons as well. It's just fantastic. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something kind of unusual and different. The soundtrack is amazing as well. If you're looking for something creepy and tense and weird and like actually suspenseful, this one has you covered. Especially if you've watched a lot of the horror standards and like, oh, I'm not that scared. That wasn't that scary. That wasn't that off-putting. From the New World is definitely something you should try out. And finally, this video has gone on way longer than I ever planned it to, is the Australian release again, Madman's release of Evangelion 3.33. So, it's a little bit different color through the camera than what it is in real life, but I think everyone knows this like turquoise blue. I'm actually quite happy that the ratings logo this time matches, because if it was like a MA, it would be bright red, like you saw here. And that wouldn't match at all. That would just be kind of sad. But yeah, it's pretty similar to the US release. We got a booklet full of stuff that I don't really care about, and the film, and it's very plain. It's literally one disc and no artwork. And yeah, I don't know why Madman didn't use the kind of very iconic poster of this with Shinji and Kaoru anywhere in this package, but I mean, it's their decision. I don't, make the rules or anything, but I do actually really like this film. It's not perfect, but I do think it kind of goes back to what Evangelion is actually all about, which is the mindset of the main character, as well as like the depression and how all-consuming depression is, and it doesn't like just take a few kind words and like good intentions to help people with depression. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but I think a lot of people pan it unnecessarily because they expected more of the action of the second film and got a very quiet, moody piece that is very gay and kind of all over the place. Is it a perfect movie? Of course not. There's some definite things wrong with it, especially because it is very uneven. I think the first half doesn't really flow very well with the second half. I think the second half, or the second 2/3, is great. They certainly did what they set out to do. But the first half is a bit, or first 1/3 or whatever, is a bit all over the place and kind of like making you expect to know things that you don't know. You feel like Shinji in the situation because you go in as blind as he does and you don't like know what's going on. I think it's an interesting choice because you really feel for the character and you truly like understand how he feels in that moment, feeling like rejected by everyone he cared about from before he was in space or whatever he was in that opening. But yeah, it's like, I don't necessarily think you should judge the film just because people have said it's bad or gay or whatever. Gay! Because if you're a fan of the Evangelion television show, you can definitely see how this film is related to the show overall, and I think you have a better appreciation for the trilogy of films if you have seen the show, because they're very different, but with this film they've kind of returned to what Evangelion was always really about. Just as another aside, obviously the third film in the franchise, if anyone was interested in what the Australian other releases look like, keep in mind the first film is a re-release, the second film is not. But after it became apparent that the second release would have a cover like this, they re-released the first one to have a matching slipcover. So the three of them do actually look really good on the shelf. This one is a little bit thicker because obviously it has that book, and these two are slip cases rather than a slip box. But they really do look very good together, and the spines all together like so. I'm really happy that Madman decided to be consistent with all their packaging, and yeah, when the next film comes out, or whenever it comes out, hopefully they will stay consistent. I do have faith in Madman. They're very good at that. I know people complain about Funimation and inconsistencies and stuff, but you know, I can't, because I don't buy the Funimation version. Instead, I buy the Madman version. I buy it locally. But yeah, so that was everything I got for the second half of February. My voice kind of hurts. I don't know if you can notice that at all. But yeah, so I'll just actually, there's a box. Move these out of the way. There's these two, and actually I'll get, and then there's Yu Hakusho, which I showed off in my earlier video. And then, so that's all the anime I got this month, recently. And manga-wise, we got this stuff here, so a bunch of different publishers, bunch of different series, Noragami from this month, and then 2 light novels as well. So, yeah, I think I did pretty well this month. Don't know what I'm getting in next month, and I cannot believe this video is almost 40 minutes. I tried to go fast. I'm sorry, guys, but yeah, don't know what's coming this next month, aside from, well, no, I have zero clue. My birthday is this week, so hopefully I will have birthday money to spend, but I don't know whether or not that will come in, like what I spend it on will come in time for a recent video, or the next video, I guess. But yeah, that's all for this month. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I know this is another long one. The whole reason I did half-month videos was to make them not as long as this, but obviously I failed in my endeavor. But I'm going to keep with these half-month videos, just because I think it is easier. And yeah, I know you guys like my videos, and I really appreciate that, by the way. But yeah, it really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for all of you who've subscribed and liked my liked my videos and commented to me and spoken to me and tweeted me and everything else. Also, I did mention last video that I have created a Twitter related to this channel. So if you wanted to talk to me and didn't necessarily want to leave a big comment, then it will be in the description. So yeah, just thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.